welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinions. As always, my name is Taylor Limsky. My co-host here, Chuck Taylor, with another segment of Around the Diamond. And we sure do got a lot going on in the baseball world to talk about today. Ain't that right, Chuck?
That's right, man. We had some big day to be a Ranger fan, big day to be a baseball fan, man.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff going on, and of course, there's two things that we want to cover specifically. But I actually just wanted to catch you up on my weekend. I don't know how much I actually got to tell you about this, but obviously, Beltre's 3,000 hits was looming above everyone's head, right? So, of course, I know that you were very adamant, like, hey guys, you're in town, make sure you get tickets to this game. You want to get a piece of history. So, I freed up pretty much all of my Saturday. And I was like, you know what? Last second, I'm hopping on. Let's go. And so I brought a friend with me. We looked for tickets. The only thing that was available was 2 tickets on the nosebleed section. When I'm talking about nosebleed, I'm like, you basically need those binoculars. I mean, it was rough. We were sitting in section 344 against the chain link deck. Chain link. Give me one more time here. Hold on. Chain link fence is what I meant to say.
Chain link fence. Yeah, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We can do some speech shooting later. But anyways, basically the highest you can get, and then, I mean, you know that ballpark very well. So where we sat on that fence, you can't even see the game board, either TV. So we're sitting there, and they're like, oh, if you take a look at the game board, blah, blah, blah. And we're just like, I can't see anything. And, of course, I'm the idiot not wearing his contacts, so I can't see more than maybe like 10 feet in front of me. So it was rough. But let me tell you this. Going into the game, just to kind of set a little bit of background on this, obviously we know Beltre was sitting at 2,998 hits. I was so pumped. Not only myself, but of course the rest of the stadium. So every time Beltre came out to bat, I mean, it almost seemed like everybody was standing, at least everyone where I was at. We all stood up. We're sitting there. Everyone's in anticipation waiting to see what's going to happen. Every single ball, every single strike. And if we got too many balls, we got worried because we didn't want him to walk. We wanted him to get the hits, right? So,
for sure.
Very on edge. And then, of course, doesn't get on base that first time, but pulls in 2,999. Crowd goes wild. It was electric. I mean, this might be like pretty close to like a World Series type atmosphere, given the the accomplishment of 3,000 hits that everyone's there to see. So, I mean, unfortunately, it didn't happen when I was there. He got another at bat in the 9th. We thought it was going to happen. Dribbled one to Manny Machado, tossed him out. But man, still, what a great thing to be a part of. What a great teammate, Adrian Beltre. I mean, what a great guy for baseball.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you had a great time, but it sounds like, if Beltre hears this podcast, he might owe you like a signed ball or something, man. I mean, just as a consolation prize.
That's what I'm hoping for. I mean, Beltre, whatever you decide is totally okay with me, but I think I deserve something at this point, And I already had this thing in my head, I was lucky enough to get that Joey Gallo home run. So I thought, maybe a good look. So I was going to go out there. I was going to catch Adrian Beltre's 3,000th hit, which was going to be a home run, and palm it with one hand, chug a beer with the other, and then sit down with JD and negotiate some sort of season ticket lifetime deal to where I can exchange the ball for. I don't know. I was working on it.
That would have been a hell of a 3,000th hit, and hitting the chain link fence. I mean, I guess that'd be a foul ball. I don't know how that really curls fair, but I mean, that would be one for the ages for sure.
Well, let's be real. Full disclosure on the Joey Gallo incident, where I caught that home run, was definitely not where my tickets were at. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, okay, so you remember the hot dog guy that sits back there behind the right field?
Yeah, the boomstick.
So I don't think it's the boomstick. He's got it's just like a little like a hot dog. No, it's not a hot dog stand. It's a popcorn stand. My bad. It's a popcorn stand behind right.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
Yeah. Apparently, that's where a couple of Joey's balls have gone. Obviously, hitting them out there to right field. But he came down after I called it. They check your hand, like, "Oh, are you okay?" Everything's fine. And then the popcorn stand guy came over. He's like, "Yeah, so I didn't see you boys over here at the start of the game. Mind if I check your tickets real quick?" And my heart sank. But I told him straight away. I was like, "Hey, man, we can do this the easy way or hard way, but you try to get this ball back, I'm taking off running."
I don't blame you, man. I wouldn't give that up either.
Yeah, no kidding, man. But yeah, very great thing to be a part of. Just kind of wanted to fill you in on there. So yeah, but I mean, episode 2. Hopefully this goes good, and yeah, I mean, you can hear me okay? Is that right?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, because we've had some issues with this piece of crap phone I've got going on here. So just let me know if it goes in and out.
No, yeah, I will do. Yeah, you sound good for now, but I'll let you know if your little black market SE or whatever you want to call it, it's not a real phone, but
okay.
I'll let you know if any of that screws up.
Hold up. Listen, no one believes me on this, and if anybody's listening, this is real. iPhone 6, iPhone 6 Plus, and the iPhone SE all came out at the same time. The SE was a lot cheaper. I'm all about cheap. I was like, sounds good. No one's heard of this phone, man. I'm the only one who thinks this is a real thing.
It's totally fake. I think, yeah, you definitely need to get, well, there's no way you're getting your money back because you bought it off of some kind of black market-ish type deal, but yeah. That's neither here nor there. Let's get into some baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll jump right into it and just kind of give the listeners a heads up what we got going on here. Important day today, and I guess our last podcast was a couple of weeks ago, so we have a few things to catch up on. But 3 really main topics I want to get us started with. One is being Pudge, an introduction to the Hall of Fame today, which also happens to be the same day that Adrian Beltre gets his 3,000th hit. So we want to cover both of those there. And then, of course, the trade deadline. We're sitting here recording this July 30th. So we're basically sitting on the eve of the deadline. And it should be, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the deadline is 3 p.m. Central Time tomorrow as far as any trades go.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Perfect. Well, yeah, we'll start right into it, and that's kind of what we got going on, and see what we got going. So first thing, and I really wanted to pass the torch to you on this one, Chuck, is Pudge. I know that you and your dad, you've been longtime Ranger fans. You've been going since you were, knee-high to the ground. And having Ivan Rodriguez out there in the Hall of Fame, just tell me your experience watching his introduction speech, your experience seeing Pudge as a fan. Just kind of go all around this for me.
Oh, man. So, yeah, special day. Ivan Pudge Rodriguez gets into the Hall of Fame. It's a day that me and my dad and my brother have really been waiting for a while. I remember going to the Rangers games. I started going when I was about 2 years old. And, I mean, this guy, one of the things my dad would always say, which was one of the best things I ever heard about Pudge, he always used to tell me he remembered watching the pitcher throw the ball to Pudge, and Pudge would throw the ball back to the pitcher faster than the pitcher threw it to him. I always thought that just blew my mind. But, yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about this guy. He leads the MLB. He has the MLB record for most games caught, 2,427. He beat Carlton Fisk's record as an Astro in Texas, actually, which is really cool. 14-time All-Star, 13 Gold Gloves. He was the 1999 MVP, AL MVP, over 300 home runs, 1,300 runs and RBIs. He won a World Series with the Marlins in 2003. He led the league 9 times in caught base stealers. I mean, this guy was just an all-around ball player. I mean, he really was a 5-tool player. He even stole 127 bases. So he could hit. He hit for power. He could play defense. Just all around deserving, and not only deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, but he was very deserving of being a first ballot Hall of Famer, which is a Hall of Fame Hall of Famer, if you will. I mean, that's a step above, and he deserves that distinction of being the second ever first ballot Hall of Famer catcher, along with his idol, Johnny Bench. So, yeah, it was amazing, well deserving. And if you didn't see the speech, get online, get on MLB.com or TexasRangers.com and check it out. It was a very heartfelt speech. He did probably about a third of it in Spanish. He's from Puerto Rico, and there's a lot of native-born Puerto Rican fans there in attendance. He definitely spoke to them. He spoke extremely highly of his family, especially his brother Tito, who was like a coach to him, he said, and recognized fans of all the teams that he played for. He played mostly for the Rangers, but he also had a year in Florida, had a few years in Detroit, had a half year in New York, and a half year in Houston, along with 2 years at the end of his career with Washington. So he played for quite a few teams, acknowledged all the fans, but took a special moment out to acknowledge Ranger fans in particular, because that's where he came up at age 19. And, yeah, just an amazing speech. I'll share one other thing. He told this story when he retired in 2012 as a Ranger, and then he went in, I think, the following year, 2014, into the Texas Rangers Hall of Fame. He shared this little story, and I thought it was hilarious. He did it again in his Hall of Fame speech. So he came up with the Rangers at the age of 19 in 1991, and the first pitcher he ever caught was Nolan Ryan. And there's a whole little story that goes on with that. But about a year later, Nolan Ryan was right in the middle of a no-hitter. And it was in the bottom of the eighth inning, and I think he had 1 or 2 outs. I mean, he was very close to this no-hitter. And then whoever it was at the bat, gets a double, and he loses it. Well, they asked Pudge after the game. The reporters come up to him, and they interview him, and they say, well, Pudge, what did you put down? What pitch did you throw? What happened there? And Pudge, who barely spoke the language at this point, I mean, he came over when he was 19. He barely could speak English.
Right.
And the reporter goes, so what went wrong, Pudge? And Pudge just looks at him and goes, well, Nolan shook me off. So it was this big thing in the clubhouse, and Nolan told the GM and the coach, Johnny Oates at the time, he said, yeah, the kid learned English.
That's awesome. Yeah, you were telling me that story before. That's honestly my favorite story right there. And to come up as a 19-year-old to catch Nolan Ryan, I mean, can you even fathom that? That's crazy.
Yeah, he's lucky 19-year-old for sure.
No kidding. And one of my things, too, that I thought was kind of cool, this has nothing to do with his baseball stats, but rather his physical stats. You know, he only stood like 5'9". And
yeah,
I don't know, like I always love seeing guys that are a little bit shorter, under that 6-foot mark, that are making it in the big time. Obviously, you got, Jose Altuve doing his thing this year. I think he's like 5'6". But yeah, I mean, to have a guy that's, always been criticized for his height, saying that, you're not going to be able to make it in the majors, to being enshrined in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a big part of his speech was, getting his nickname Pudge for being this short little plump guy from Puerto Rico. And, yeah, the big ending to his speech was, never give up on your dreams, never tell somebody you can't do something. So very inspirational speech, great induction into Cooperstown. Congratulations to Pudge, but congratulations also to John Shearholt, the great GM of the Royals and the 90s Braves dynasty. Bud Selig, 20-plus years, the second longest tenured commissioner in MLB history. Great, huge accomplishments by Bud Selig with instilling instant replay and creating labor peace with all the strikes that went on in the 70s and 80s before him. And then also to the other 2 players, Tim Raines, who got in on his last ballot chance, his 10th year up for consideration, and Jeff Bagwell of the Houston Astros. Congratulations to everybody, the class of 2017. It was a really strong class, and great to see Pudge finally in there as a Ranger.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. It was good to see the whole thing, and definitely a soft spot for Pudge. And it's kind of funny. I know that you listed off the the teams that Pudge had played for. In my memory, I don't know why I blanked, but I remember 2002, I guess when he left the Rangers, I remember him going directly to Jim Leyland and the Tigers. I completely forgot that he played for Florida and then won the World Series with Florida. I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say 2002 was an interesting year because I believe it was 1999. He was up for a contract. He was going to be up in his contract, and not Johnny Oates. The GM name is blanking me at the time. I think Tom Greed had already left as the GM, but whoever the GM was at the time, I'm really blanking on it. He wanted to trade Pudge. And Pudge really wanted to stay a Ranger. I mean, he wanted to be a Ranger his entire career. So he signed a little short 3-year deal or something along those lines. And in 2002, either his contract was up or he was looking to leave. And Texas didn't want to sign him to an extension because a lot of people thought that his career was almost up. I mean, he was 30 years old at the time, and he had caught a lot of games, and they didn't know with his small frame that he was really going to be able to hold up.
Right.
He had an injury-plagued year back in 2000. He missed some games, and he missed more games in 2002. So the time came, and Texas ended up not re-signing him, and Florida snatched him up and for a 1-year deal. And, you know, he helped them to a world title that year. He actually got the NLCS MVP. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had no idea about that, but yeah, congrats to a great player there. All the guys in the 2017 class. It was pretty interesting. I caught a little part of that towards the end, but that kind of transitions me to one of my favorite players and a future Hall of Famer, Adrian Beltre, the 38-year-old third baseman stud. Just surpassed that today, which I thought was kind of weird that both things happened on the same day. Just the odds of that happening. You know, maybe one taking away more limelight than the other, you know, because I feel like it would have been better if, you know, Pudge had this full day, you know, showing the Hall of Fame induction and everything. But regardless, it happened this way. I mean, it was awesome to see Adrian get that hit a double off of Wade Miley for that 3,000th hit.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying with the separate days, but it's cool in its own right that it was just a super day for Rangers fans. I get to watch Pudge, and literally 10 minutes after Pudge finishes his speech, AB's hitting his 3,000th hit. So,
yeah.
Really, really cool day.
That's true. Yeah, definitely a huge fan of that. That was great. Like I said, I was super frustrated it didn't happen yesterday, so I could have been a part of it and negotiated with JD. But, you know, happy for him. I'm glad he did it in a Rangers uniform. And obviously all the love and support from all the fans and all the teammates. I mean, it was really, really great to see.
Yeah, tremendous. So you want some numbers. So he became the 31st member of the 3,000 hit club. He became the primarily third baseman behind Wade Boggs and George Brett, the 5th foreign-born player to reach the 3,000 hit plateau, along with Rod Carew, Rafael Palmeiro, former Ranger, Ichiro Suzuki, and Roberto Clemente. He's also the first Dominican ever to be in the 3,000 hit club. And one thing that was really interesting to me, Tay, I was just thinking about this earlier because there's 2 huge sports moments that happened in DFW this year. So Adrian Beltre hitting the 3,000 hit plateau. And then you've got Dirk Nowitzki, long-term Mav, hitting the 30,000 point plateau.
That's a good point.
And I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, you have an argument here. Which one is more significant? You've got Beltre becoming the 31st member of this 3,000 hit plateau, whereas Dirk became the 6th or 7th member of the 30,000 point club. So either way, 6th or 7th, a much, much rarer club to be a part of. But here's where it gets interesting. If you take into account other things besides the hit club, because the main thing that Dirk has behind him is points. He's not really up there in rebounds. He's definitely not up there in assists or steals or blocks or any of this. It's really just the points, which is impressive. But if you dig deeper into Adrian Beltre's career, if you look at players with 3,000 hits, 600 doubles, and 450 home runs, you're looking at 4 players: Hank Aaron, Stan the Man Musial, Carl Yastrzemski, and Adrian Beltre. And then, if you dig even deeper, if you add in the 5 Gold Gloves that he has, he becomes the only player with 3,000 hits, 600 doubles, 5 Gold Gloves, and 454 home runs. Carl Yastrzemski had 452 home runs, so he's already passed him in home runs. He was a 7-time Gold Glover. But if you add in those 4 things, he's the only player with those 4 accomplishments in his career in MLB history.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely impressive. I would have assumed to see Barry Bonds up there. I guess he's missing in the, would it be the doubles? I think
Bonds does not. I don't think Bonds has 3,000 hits.
Oh, goodness. Oh, yeah. I'm lost it there for a second. That's right. I'm thinking about something else. But, yeah, no, definitely. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Beltre got through there and has those stats. I mean, it's an amazing career that he's had. But I think another thing that's in common with Dirk and Beltre, and correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't they both played in the majors, essentially, for 20 years professionally?
Yeah, Beltre's on his 20th season. Pudge played 21 years. So, yeah.
No,
they've been playing for a long time.
Not Pudge. I'm talking about Dirk.
Oh, Dirk. Sorry. Yeah, Dirk. Dirk was drafted in 1998, and that's the same year Beltre made his debut. So, yeah, I think they've both been in the league 20 years. Yeah. Because, yeah, that's true. Because Dirk, I think, tied Kobe this year as the only other player to play 20 years with the same franchise. So
yeah, that's right. That's interesting. Two Dallas greats right there, man.
Yeah. I mean, they're both amazing accomplishments. I don't mean to diminish Dirk's accomplishment at all. I'm just stating that Beltre, on the scope of it, if you just look at the hits, it's one thing. But if you look at all the other things he's done in his career, Beltre is top 5, top 3 third baseman of all time, period. If you let him play a couple more years like he's going to and reach 500 home runs and some other plateaus, I mean, you might, at the end of his career, you might be talking about the greatest third baseman in the history of baseball.
Man, and I really hope it's what he ends up landing on, because I know that in the conference afterwards, he was kind of just saying, taking each year by year, essentially, just to kind of see, hey, is my body able to play? Can I play at my fullest right now? Because for a guy that's played baseball for that long in the majors, you just have to know that, I mean, it's in your blood. It's something different. It's not something you're just like, oh, okay, well, I think I'm done now. I'm going to walk away. That has to kill you inside to walk away from this game. And so I know that most of these guys that are so dedicated to baseball like this, the only way that you're getting them to stop playing is if their body can't keep up anymore. And it becomes more of a reality in this stage of the game. Beltre is 38, and to be a 38-year-old third baseman, I mean, it's pretty impressive. You usually see these guys in their later 30s transition into a sole DH role. I feel like it's going to be hard to pull Beltre even off third base. So, I mean, I hope he ends up settling to be the best third baseman. Definitely my favorite in all of baseball. And actually, I want to point out something, too. I don't know if you noticed this, and I'm totally going to butcher this. It's a Dominican song, but I didn't know if you noticed Beltre's walk-up song that he has, I guess, that started last year. But it's called Menea tu Chapa, and that might be the whitest way to ever say something that's Spanish. But do you know what that means by chance, Chuck?
I haven't a clue. I do not speak Spanish at all.
It's kind of funny. I was listening to it, what Eric Nadel was saying, and he said, well, to keep it for a family audience, the direct translation would be move your hips. So, I don't know, something about that, knowing them, definitely not what it exactly means. I don't know. It made me crack up a little bit. It's so Beltre.
No, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Speaking of funny, last thing I wanted to touch on, though, is his ejection for moving the on-deck circle.
Oh, man. That, yeah, I mean, it was hilarious, and it's classic Beltre. You've been watching him doing this for 20 years. But, man, that really got me fired up. And I love Banny's post-game press conference about it because, I mean, at the end of the day, the dude's chasing 3,000, and you're robbing these fans of seeing every at-bat that they can. You know, I mean, in the 8th inning of a 21-8 game, you're going to kick this guy out for doing something he does every game, every year, by the second base umpire. It wasn't even the home plate umpire. And it's not like the pitcher was arguing. The pitcher didn't say anything. The other manager didn't say anything. Completely uncalled for. But, yeah, it was pretty hilarious. Classic Beltre.
Yeah, and I didn't want to get too much into that part of it because, I mean, it is ridiculous when you think about a guy who's chasing 3,000 and he's been doing it for I don't know how long, and then you want to chase him across the field and yell at him about that. I don't know, but Beltre's reaction is just, it's everything that makes baseball great. I mean, the whole world of baseball is going to be sad the day that he retires because that's just a whole other level. I mean, you see these clips of all the, you know, like the MLB bloopers, and I mean, Adrian Beltre is on 60%, if not more, of the clips. It's just, he's just a guy who spreads love. He loves the game, and he has fun doing it. And that's what makes it so great. You know, like that Elvis and Adrian collection where it has them, you know, going for the same ball and playing around. Like, that's what makes baseball fun. And that's why I love the Texas Rangers. I love the chemistry. I love watching them go out there every day to compete.
Yeah, he will be sorely missed, man. Just amazing player, and I hope you have a great rest of your career, Beltre. I hope you retire with the Rangers and keep doing what you're doing.
Amen to that. And, all right, well, kind of want to go ahead and get to the wrap-up point here, but before we do so, tonight, this is the eve of the trade deadline. So I want to talk about the Rangers first because I want to make sure that's the most important part for us. And if we have time, we can kind of dig into around the MLB here. But here's a few things that I want to mention. First is what we just saw coming into this. And it was actually kind of crazy when you texted me because that news about Jonathan Lucroy going to the Colorado Rockies, I mean, that popped, like 5 minutes before we got on air?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy timing. Yeah, it gives us something really fresh to talk about, though. It's pretty cool. That's the trade deadline for you.
And I was getting kind of worried. I don't know about you, but, I mean, I know a lot of things usually pop off last second, but, I mean, we're sitting here at, I mean, what time is it, like 9 p.m. Central Time, and there hasn't been a whole lot of movement on our side. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, what's going on? I mean, you've got guys that are interested in our players, and there's not been a whole lot of movement. And I know that we're trying to rebuild this farm system and utilize that a lot. But so we'll go ahead and talk about Lucroy. Obviously, that's our first deal. The one that I do want to get some opinions on, though, is going to be obviously the Rangers actively shopping Yu Darvish. I've heard some chatter about Andrew Kashner because I believe he's another free agent that's up at the end of the year. And I think that about rounds out our free agents coming up as far as being on the trading block. But we could talk about that. But first things first, let's talk about Lucroy, something fresh, going to the Rockies who are, you know, competing pretty strong this year. What are your thoughts? Because with Lucroy, he's having his career worst numbers with us. I know he's batting, I think, .242. Pretty much his stats across the board are just taking a hit, and you know he's due up at the end of the year. So my take on this was always, let's sell. The only problem with that is, I mean, given, you know, the worst numbers, I just didn't think of what kind of return we would get. And we still don't really know what's going to happen with that. It's still being worked out or hasn't been released. But what's your take on the Lucroy trade?
So yeah, they released that he got traded for a player to be named later. So, what does that really mean? Well, it means that we're going through their prospects and they're saying no, 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 and when they say yes, then it'll be finalized. I was looking through the Rockies prospects right now. I've got a few names that they might be looking at. Yinsi Almonte, their 10th top prospect, relief pitcher, right-handed pitcher. He's ETA arrival is supposed to be around 2018. He's got some solid numbers. Sam Howard's a left-handed pitcher, their 12th top prospect that I was looking at. Could be another name that they're looking at. But I'd be surprised if they didn't go after a pitcher or an outfielder in the Rockies farm system. They're pretty loaded in infield, so I really wanted 2 prospects for Lucroy, but depending on who they get, I'll take the one. The Rockies have a decent, not great farm system. So, it was rumored for a while that he was going to go to the Rockies. I think it could be a good deal. It's great for Lucroy. He gets to go to Coors Field and boost his offensive numbers a little bit before the end of the year before he becomes a free agent. So definitely good for Lucroy, and I'm sure he'll be happy there with Desmond. And, it's a fun team to play for there in playoff chase. So, yeah, we'll just have to see what we get, but definitely great for Lucroy.
Yeah, and kind of go back to what we were talking about, the sliding of the numbers for this year. Obviously wanted more than just one prospect for Lucroy. However, I think it's good that we're getting something because, again, it's coming down to the free agency after this year. It looks like we're on the sell side of things, and this is, I think it's only the second or third time that JD has been a selling manager. I think it was like 2007 and 2014, if I'm correct. But it's good that we're getting something because at the end of the year, that we're not going to re-sign Lucroy. And we have a farm system that's been completely depleted. We need to get something moving. And I spoke on the last podcast about, my love for Chirinos. I'm fully content with Chirinos being the day-to-day catcher. I know, eventually we're going to want to replace him with, a long-term person. But for right now, for the interim, absolutely. I've got great faith in him, and I'm glad that we're moving Lucroy. Hopefully we get, a decent prospect from Colorado and we see what happens.
Yeah. Lucroy especially needed to be moved because at the end of the year, we're not going to give him a qualifying offer. It's too much money. I think it's going to be around $15-16 million for a year. And Darvish is one thing, but we're not going to give a qualifying offer to Lucroy. So, and we're not going to re-sign him because we already re-signed Chirinos next year. It's just, we had to trade him. It didn't make any sense for us to keep him.
Okay, well, that actually is a good transition to the next player, Yu Darvish. And follow me here, but this is kind of what I feel like is happening, and I might be wrong. But you remember the blockbuster trade from Chapman from the Yankees to Chicago.
Yep.
I've got a strong feeling the same thing is happening here because I know that Yu loves Texas, and I know he wants to stay here, at least from the things that I've read. And you think about it now, still free agent at the end of this year. I feel like he's going to a contender. You hear a lot of chatter about, the Yankees, the Dodgers, especially the Dodgers now that Clayton Kershaw sidelined for a few weeks. We can talk about that in a second. But I've heard talks about Houston, which I don't think is a great idea. But regardless, it's a rental piece. So, it goes to the second half of the season, helps out one of the contenders. And it'd be hard for me not to see him back re-signed with the Rangers come next year.
Yeah, well, a big reason why the Dodgers have been rumored with him so strongly is because Los Angeles feels like if they sign him, it's not just a rental piece. Los Angeles is one of those teams that is actively looking to sign Darvish or re-sign him if they end up getting him at the end of the year. So that's why the Dodgers are extra interested in Darvish. The Astros are interested, but they're not going to give up the same kind of prospects and commodities for a rental piece because they know they're not going to re-sign Darvish at the end of the year. I don't think they really have the money, and I don't really think they're interested in re-signing. So that leaves the Rangers. Right now, from what I'm reading, the Dodgers aren't really willing to part with some of the pieces that we want. There's an outfielder, center fielder, Verduga, that we really want, and Buehler, two pitchers in Buehler and Hernandez. I can't remember the other guy's name. But two top pitchers that we're looking at and a center fielder. And they're not really willing to part with the same package that we are looking for. So, JD keeps saying he's confident he's going to get a deal done by the trade deadline. Worst case scenario, doesn't have to be the worst case, but if we don't get anything done by Monday, we definitely will extend him a qualifying offer at the end of the year. He won't take it because he's not going to take a one-year deal. And we'll get draft pick compensation, which means a late first round, early second round pick added on to next year. Not a great return for Darvish, but if we were going to re-sign Darvish, and he's interested in something like that, it might also help us to re-sign Ohtani, the Japanese Babe Ruth, who is rumored to make the switch over to the U.S. next year. And he's really actively looking to both pitch and hit in the major leagues over here. And we're one of the very few teams that has discussed the possibility of that happening, along with Yu Darvish being his absolute idol in baseball. So there's some rumors going around that might help. Whoever signs Darvish will, have a better chance at Ohtani. I don't really know how deep those rumors are. I think Ohtani's at the end of the day going to sign wherever he wants to. But yeah, so if that's our plan, that's one thing. Having said all that, if Darvish and Ohtani are the only two things that we get, and everyone else leaves, because we're going to spend a lot of money on Darvish and we're going to spend quite a decent bit on Ohtani. If we put all that money forward and we don't get anything else, Darvish and Ohtani do not fix this team going into next year. So then we're still prospect poor. And we're very money poor at that point. Doesn't really fix things. So I don't know. That's why I think JD's trying to move Darvish, and we could see a Chapman-like deal. I don't know. We'll have to just wait back and see, because I just don't think we have the bank for it. But hopefully we get something done.
Yeah, I guess with the bank aspect, it definitely makes sense because, like you said, those two pieces, if that was something that were going to happen, doesn't fix the Rangers. That's a pitching Band-Aid. We're still going to be spewing out other sides. I don't see it being a long-term thing. We really need to consider and allocate the money that we have to make this team better. And, for me, number one, I want to rebuild this farm system. The farm system being the last third, we need to get these guys moving. We need to have some prospects so we can actually utilize them in trade and then homegrown some of these guys up to the big leagues. I'm very, passionate about that part of it. But just to kind of touch on the same thing, out of those top three, I know you said the Dodgers really want to, maintain somebody for the long term. I see that, sure. But at the same time, you got a league-leading record. You're pushing World Series. So it finds it hard to me, especially when you got your number one pitcher, sidelined for a few weeks. Why not be interested in a rental piece? You're trying to push there, and then I think that Darvish being added to the Dodgers rotation, I think that would put them in, favorites for the World Series. Easy. I know that we were sitting there kind of talking about this last podcast, come back between, the Dodgers, the Nationals, and Houston. I just think if you throw Yu Darvish in that mix over there, and then you got a healthy Kershaw, I just think that's hard to beat. And I think if you're really pushing for this World Series, you put in the prospects for this. But, to each its own. We'll kind of see what unfolds here in the next, 16 hours or so. See what happens before this trade deadline sneaks up on us. But I think that we'll get it packaged, and I do think that it will be a rental deal. But again, it's all kind of up in the air. It's just my preference. Dodgers or Yankees kind of being the front runners on that. I don't see Darvish going to Houston. I know that Houston was kind of early rumored about that, having Dallas Keuchel, Lance McCullers Jr., and then throwing in Darvish. let's think the worst case scenario that he goes to Houston, but not as a rental, and Houston re-signs him. And you got to think about that. And then, how many games do we play Houston a year? Like 19, 20 games, something like that. And have to face Darvish for a lot of that. I mean, I just don't see that being plausible going into a in-division rival that way. But, I've seen stranger things happen. But that's kind of my take on that. And I guess the last part I want to finish up before we wrap this thing up here is Andrew Cashner. I've heard his name being thrown around in talks. I thought it was with the Rockies as well, but I'm not too sure. What's your take on Cashner here?
Yeah, he was rumored to go to the Rockies with Lucroy. Obviously, they didn't pair them in that deal. There's several people we're shopping. We're shopping Jeremy Jeffers, apparently, Keone Kela, along with Lucroy and Darvish. There was rumors about Hamels, but those have kind of cooled. Unless we just get blown away, we're not giving away Hamels. I would be for giving away. Cashner's a free agent at the end of the year. I don't know what we're going to get for him. Probably not too much. I mean, he's had a solid year. He's had a bounce back year, but I just don't. I mean, I don't really see that many teams that are looking for an Andrew Cashner at this point. Maybe somebody like Minnesota or Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's made a host full of moves, and the Twins have already traded away Jaime Garcia, who they just got a week before. So, it'd be one of those wild card teams. I don't think one of the front runners would go after Cashner, and I just don't know what we could get for him. I mean, we're not going to give a qualifying offer at the end of the year. So, and it doesn't sound like we're going to be able to re-sign him. It sounds like, from what he's been saying, it sounds like he really wants to test out free agency, and he's looking forward to free agency. So if we can get anything at all, I guess you might as well pull the trigger. But if not, just hang on to him and see what happens, I guess. But if we do give him up, that creates another hole in our rotation. We got to fill it with some guy in AAA. But at this point, if we're going that tank route, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and again, we'll see a lot what kind of happens. I know that based off what I read, it seems like they weren't too keen on moving Cashner. He was more so just drawing interest. I think that was actually the first part I heard about it was, hey, Rockies are interested in Lucroy and Cashner. And then, we kind of said, hey, well, we want to hold on to Cashner. They dealt Lucroy. I think ultimately that the Rangers want to sign Cashner come this next year, but kind of like what you said, he wants to test out the free agency. So I guess it really depends on what we can work with on that side. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of things happening, a lot of stuff to catch up on here in the next, 12, 16 hours. Not the greatest at math, or whatever that ends up to be. We're just looking at around 3 p.m. But yeah, I mean, definitely interesting. We kind of see that we're on the sell side here. I hope things work out great. And I mean, I hope to see you Darvish back in a Ranger uniform if he does go come tomorrow. So I guess we'll kind of see what happens. But right now we're kind of running to the end of our time here. I did want to mention Tim Tebow because, I love rubbing that in your face occasionally, that he's shining in the minors, and he's going to be the new face of the MLB, whatever. Tim Tebow.
No, not at all. Look, talk to me when he's playing above high A ball against a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds. I mean, the guy's going to be 30 years old next year, and he's, played 30 games at high A, and everyone's freaking out. No, do not jump on the Tim Tebow train. This is not going to happen. This is another Michael Jordan stunt. No.
Hey, this kid's going Oppo Taco left and right, man. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I love
5 home runs, yeah.
Dude, hey, 5 home runs, Tim Tebow. I don't know. I like Tim Tebow as a guy, but no, I know what you're saying. I do it more so to get under your skin there. But, yeah, I mean, I see him going to AA pretty soon, and we'll see if he can actually hang with the big boys at that point.
Yeah. He won't make AA this year, but if they somehow want to test him out at AA next year, I don't know why they would. We'll see, but he won't get to AA this year. If he does, it'll be a very short amount of time, and it'll be a very small sample size. But yeah, I don't know what the Mets are doing. The Mets are just in a delusional state right now. So,
all right. Well, hey, been great talking with you here, Chuck. I'm glad we kind of covered a few things there. Hopefully we gave some, good information on that. And again, this has been Taylor Lemsky, Chuck Taylor, another episode of Around the Diamond. Look forward to seeing y'all next week.
Yeah, guys, have a good week. See you next week.